and she, by the way, she lived until 2009, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, she lived a good long. Well, she was a lot younger than
I was going to say, she must have been a young woman when he married her.
Yeah, she was quite a bit younger than him, yeah.
Well, yeah, it had to be.
Yeah. So, mystery solved, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You keep saying that. You keep saying that.
No. Oh, I don't really know. For me, the big mystery here is why people care so much. In going through this, I was really struck by the fact that so many people devoted like years of their lives to researching and tracking down and traveling to various places and checking records and interviewing people and just to try to figure out who he was.
People get stuck on weird mysteries. We've experienced it.
Oh, yeah.
Us three. We get stuck on some weird stuff sometimes.
How many times have any of us brought up the same mystery to the others? It happens.
Oh, yeah, and then, one of us will be like, oh, we should do this mystery, and you guys will always be like, no, Devin, that's dumb.
Yeah, that's lame.
That's
or
dumb.
Joe, we've already done that one. We don't need a follow-up.
We don't need 12 follow-ups,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't care what records you requested.
Yeah. All right, so I need to go to the bathroom, so I'm gonna get some of the administrivia out of the way here, so I can shut off the mixer and go to the bathroom. Okay, find us on our website, which is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. You can leave comments. We have links to various articles and stuff that are related to the subject matter, and of course, you can download the episodes directly from there. Or you can find the episodes on iTunes. iTunes. Did I say iTunes? On iTunes, you can subscribe. Of course, you're going to want to do that. You're going to want to leave a comment and a review. Please leave a review and a comment. We like those. You can stream us on Stitcher or anywhere else, for that matter. I don't know how many streaming services there are these days.
There's a bunch.
So many.
We're on most of them at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can find us on Facebook. Please find us, friend us, like us, follow us. Whatever.
TM.
Yeah.
Right? Trademark?
Trademark? Oh, yeah, trademark,
Registered
yeah.
Trademark. That's
We're
our
also,
registered trademark.
And we're on the Twitter.
We are on the Twitter. It's true.
Yes, it's true. But our name's a little different. It's Thinking Sideways, not Thinking Sideways. Just we dropped the G because we had to, right?
Yeah.
No, because it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking Sideways, more hip.
We wanted to fit in with the cool young kids.
And of course, there is email. Send us an email at thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com.
Well, and don't forget now, of course, we've got the shirts and stuff like that available on Zazzle.
Mm-hmm.
There's a link directly on the right-hand side of our website that people can just click on, and that'll take them straight to it.
So we haven't done this a lot recently. We've been kind of moving away from it.
Haven't really.
But I do want to just briefly mention a pretty cool piece of listener mail we got a week.
Well, by the time this comes out,
it'll be
been a
been
while.
a month or so.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's from Bowie Poag. Do you guys know who that is?
Of course I do.
You know who that is? Yeah. Listeners may remember, this is the Reddit user who claims that he knows who's responsible for the Max Headroom broadcast intrusion.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to actually read like verbatim anything that he said, but mostly, well, actually that's not true. Well, let's see.
Well, what I like is that we didn't reach out to Bo.
No, he reached out to us.
He tracked us down.
Yeah, he tracked us down, and he said, just listened to your podcast, and I wanted to drop you a line that says, I think you did an excellent job covering it, and I was glad that you approached the theories the way you did, with good skepticism and
Skepticism?
Yeah, skepticism and critical thinking. That, and thank you for not ripping on me for refusing to disclose any names. And then he kind of goes on, and we had a pretty good conversation about it. But I just thought it was kind of cool that he actually reached out to us, and thanks, Bowie. I don't know if you actually are listening to all of it, or you just like track down Max Headroom related stuff or whatever, but
it's got a Google alert.
I was glad to hear that he appreciated us, because I think, there's no way of proving anything, and it's better to just protect people.
Well, this is one we've hung on to for a couple of weeks, too, that I wanted to follow up with. This is a bit of listener mail and a correction. This is kind of my correction, because I was wrong. We got an email from Tony Ortega over at the Raw Story, who has done a lot of reporting on Scientology. And if anybody remembers or has recently listened to the Michelle Miscavige episode we had said we weren't sure about a fact, and so we guessed at it, and Tony was kind enough to reach out and correct us on it, which is we had questioned if anybody has listened to it, Sea Org.
Yeah.
We couldn't remember if sexual relations were allowed for any reason. Turns out we had said we thought they probably were. No, they're not at all.
I think we said that they were allowed for procreation only.
That's
Yeah.
what it was. Procreation only.
Yeah.
Turns out, no intercourse
hanky-panky
whatsoever.
at all. Yeah.
So I really appreciated Tony taking the time to reach out to us. And there was some, again, with the same as the email from Bowie, there was some other stuff there, but it was really nice to have somebody who had done a bunch of research and reporting to follow up with us, and if we ever do anything on Scientology again, I know we're going to reach out to
Oh,
them.
absolutely.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to be doing anything more about science.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see what comes up. But
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
good listener mail. It's been, God,
Yeah,
months.
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Months since
And
we've
by-
done listener mail.
So
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
sending us emails.
No, we get lots of emails.
We
people.
do get
And-
lots of emails.
Yeah, so don't be offended if we don't read your email out loud, because we can't really read that many, and we can't reply to all of them either. There's
Well,
not
no,
enough
actually,
time
we
in the day.
replied to
We
all
replied
of
to
them.
a lot of them.
Well,
All
no,
of 'em.
every single email, though it may take us a week to get back to people, I make sure that every email, if none of us have grabbed it, gets responded to so it doesn't fall through the cracks. But there's so many coming in, there's just no way that we could
There's
read
only
them all.
3 of us.
There's
Yeah.
only
Guys.
3 of us.
Yeah, we
And
don't
we have
even
full-time
an
jobs.
intern. Yeah. So for now, at least, we'll get back to you. It might be finally reach the point where we're going to have to hire a bot to reply to our email.
No.
No,
Yeah.
never.
don't wanna hire
I
a
solemnly swear that we will never.
Never going to use a bot. Nope.
Nope.
Not
so,
happening.
yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah,
that-
I want a bot.
That's everything, huh?
I
Joe,
think that's pretty much everything.
We could replace him with a bot.
Oh, we could.
Feel free. I've got better uses for my time than that.
Oh,
So
no.
far, this isn't paying too much money.
Oh. On that note, shall we?
I think we shall.
Yeah, toodaloo, everybody. See you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
And by the way, you're going to love next week's episode. We're going to tackle the big kahuna.
Hey guys, Steve here. You are listening to one of our original 26 episodes. If you've listened to any of our new episodes, you're going to notice that we're sounding a little different in these ones.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
There is.
They've been remastered
They have been remastered.
because they had a really annoying hum.
Yeah, I mean, a huge thanks to listener James for doing almost all of the legwork on this
Yes,
thing.
yeah.
You'll also notice if you had listened to what we're calling the Lost 26 episodes before, and you're re-listening now, the music and sound effects are gone.
Yes, we've gone back to straight audio. So be warned, we sound a little different today than we do in what you're about to listen to.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Uh-huh.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data for formulator supply.
What?
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hey, welcome. This is Thinking Sideways, the podcast. I'm Devin,
I'm Steve.
I'm Joe.
and we're going to talk about a mystery. Ooh, I know it's
Shocking.
surprising.
Oh, I love the mystery.
The mystery I want to talk about is a mystery artifact. Mysterious artifact? Mystery. It's a mystery artifact.
Or it's also mysterious.
Also mysterious, yeah. So let's just get started.
Sounds
In
good.
1938,
Wilhelm Koenig.
because I can't say it.
Yeah. Curator of the Baghdad Museum, correct?
He's the German director of the National Museum of Iraq. Either unearthed this artifact during an excavation near Baghdad or found it in the basement of the Baghdad Museum.
That's kind of how I understand it. Is he just found it laying around the museum?
It's unclear. He claims that he found it on an excavation, but it seems like he may have just found it in the basement.
I think he found it in the basement. Well, I'll tell you why I think so a little later on.
Great. So this mysterious artifact is a terracotta pot that's about 5 inches tall, and the mouth of it is 1.5 inches. It contains a copper cylinder made of like a rolled up copper sheet, and it houses a single iron rod isolated from the copper by an asphalt plug. or a stopper. They call it a stopper too. And the rod and cylinder fit snugly into the opening of the jar. And the jar is, as Joe said when we were talking about this earlier, kind of shaped like a hand grenade. It bulges out at the edges. It's not straight up and down, or it's not cylindrical. It's not a cylinder. It bulges, and it's not watertight. So if the jar were filled with liquid, everything would be surrounded, including the rod.
Oh, everything goes into the rod and is submerged.
Initially, they dated these objects to be about 2,000 years old, which would put it in like 250 BCE to 250 CE.
Okay.
Common Era and before Common Era, so in case anybody's wondering. And they're called the Baghdad batteries.
Whoa.
Because they're pretty sure they're the first instance of batteries.
Weird.
So, yeah, and so that's what they ran their iPods off of, I assume?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. No, so they did actually conduct an electrical current, which is kind of interesting. The copper and iron, they form what's called an electrochemical couple, so that if any kind of electrolyte containing liquid were exposed to them, they would make an electric charge. A voltage of some kind.
I think they did some experiments and like reconstructing those, and
They
got
did.
1.1 volts out of them, I think.
Yeah, they reproduced these. They did a couple reproductions of these because obviously you don't test it in like the 2,000-year-old pot.
Yeah, that seems
Right.
like a bad idea.
Yeah, and they filled it with grape juice, which is apparently has a lot of electrolytes in it.
Well, it's acidic.
Yeah,
Why not Gatorade?
because they thought grape juice, also they had grape juice back then, so it would be a pretty good representation of something they might have used. And it produced 2 volts with the grape juice, which is, not a lot, but it's something.
It's some kind of charge.
It's a charge of some kind. So, one of the big questions that people have about this is how could ancient Persian science have kind of grasped the ideas of electricity? But I think really the best answer to that is you don't really have to know how something works to know that it works.
Oh, well, that's how a lot of things in history are discovered, is
Yeah.
you go, oh, look at that.
Pure
How'd it
accident,
happen? I have no idea, but it totally works
But
every
totally,
time.
it works reliably. So I think that we can just kind of ignore that question, in my mind at least.
Well, yeah, it sort of begs the question. I mean, it could have produced electrical current, but the question is what do you do with it?
That is exactly the question.
Yeah, what
right?
do you do with it?
So there are a lot of theories on this. One suggestion was pain killing. Greeks from, again, way before this time, would talk about the pain killing attributes of electrical fish, like electrical eels, etc. If they were in pain, they would use those, and it would help dull the pain, apparently.
And that's kind of like when you've got, if you've ever gone to a chiropractor and you have back problems, they'll put the little electrodes on your back and run a little current through you to help ease things off.
I think it relaxes your muscles.
Yeah, if you got something that's knotted or
Yeah.
very tense, and that extra current seems to make it let go and relax, and that
Yeah.
doesn't hurt so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they actually make like portable versions of those too. Like that's like old family friend of my parents years ago. He had serious back issues. I mean, really bad. And so he actually had this little pack that he carried around with him, and it was wired into his back. And it was like he could just, if he was feeling a little pain, he could just turn it up a little bit, And I was like, and I asked him about it. I said, is it like, would you say kind of addictive? I mean, when you crank that thing, does it really feel awesome? And he says, yeah, it kind of does. Kind of like, yeah, I can. But anyway, we're getting way off
Well,
topic.
no, but I mean, it shows that, electricity does kind of have that effect in small doses, obviously,
Yeah.
not large doses, but
It could also have been used for interrogation, because imagine the intimidation effect if the interrogator says, I'll use this battery and I will run 1.1 volts through your gonads. I mean, that would be intimidating.
I would be intimidating.
Yeah.
The thing is that like it turns out 2 volts is like not a lot. I mean, so everybody's done this experiment, right, with like a 9-volt battery.
Yep.
And you like put it on your tongue, and it doesn't feel great, but it also isn't that painful.
It's
9
more
volts,
startling.
It turns out it's not that much.
No, it's also a function of current, though. It's not just, 9 volts can hurt you with a high current, but,
Sure.
At low current now.
A current like these are producing, it's not really gonna do anything. And they also talk about, there's a lot of records of ancient Persians using things like cannabis and opium and wine for painkillers, which are all like way more effective at killing
Yeah, they're much more
yeah.
powerful.
than like a 2-volt little like battery situation.
So do you think that they, really use them for pain, or do you think they were just
No, I
wanting
don't
to get
think
high?
they did. There are other suggestions that they used this to power something, right? And I think this is one of the more interesting theories, because 2 volts isn't a lot, but 2 volts is a lot when you've got like 20 of them,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah, you put them in series.
But they've only found the one, correct?
Yes.
So we don't know if there's been more, if there was a bunch of them put together. Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
We don't
I'm
know
sorry.
that. And the other problem that they have is that they've never discovered any wires. This is a big problem that scientists have. They say, well, we didn't discover any wires with it. It's like, okay, first of all, where did you discover this one standalone battery, right? Because maybe there are a bunch of wires.
Maybe,
And two, it's been 2,000 years. Copper corrodes pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I just feel like a thin copper wire isn't going to make it 2,000 years in the ground.
Maybe not, but that was Wilhelm Koenig, and possibly being the person who dug this up, and I don't think it was, because apparently the records, generally speaking, archaeologists, when they dig something up, they keep very meticulous notes about exactly where everything was found in relationship to everything else. And apparently whoever dug this battery up, or whatever this thing is, didn't really do that, so it was more of an amateur thing. Some treasure hunter found it maybe and wound up donating it to the museum, and then Wilhelm, who was curator of the museum, just stumbled across it in the basement in the box somewhere. But yeah, since whoever dug it up didn't really document the site as carefully as he should have, then who knows? Maybe there were a few wires
Maybe
laying
there were.
around.
Yeah, maybe he
Maybe
thought
there were
they
a few
were.
other batteries laying around. Who knows?
Yeah, might not have even recognized them for what they were.
Yeah, maybe he thought they were like trails of centipedes or something.
Or
for
maybe,
all
yeah.
we know. But, that kind of begs the question of like what, they're not charging their iPods, right?
Yeah, I know.
So what were they maybe trying to charge? And
Yeah, somebody tried to claim that they actually use these batteries to power lights.
yeah, actually,
like tunnel lights.
This
and
is
such.
exactly what I was going to say.
But again, no evidence has been found of anything resembling a light bulb.
Well, they have the one piece of like kind of shaky evidence they have is this relief, a hieroglyphic relief inside of a pyramid. They call it the Deandra bulb, and it actually looks like a bulb,
Like a light bulb?
like a light bulb.
Kind of.
Like
Are
a
you talking
giant
about
light bulb.
that thing at the right?
Yes, the big long cylinder that's in this image that we'll put up. But I could see that
That could be
interpreted as a light bulb based on our understanding of them, but we don't have an understanding of what that could have represented culturally or contextually at the time.
Well, I can tell you what scientists, like actual scientists.
Okay, yes,
think.
please.
They
It
say
is-
it's a bunch of hooey.
No, they think so. The squiggly line right here,
In the middle of it.
yeah, is the Nile / a snake. And then this is a little lotus flower. So it's talking about fertility and like continued human life.
Oh, that makes
So it's a
sense.
Not a
completely
light bulb.
different representation than people have ascribed to it.
It does look like a light bulb. Let's be fair. It does
Yeah,
kind
it
of look
does.
like a light bulb.
Maybe.
But not enough. I mean, it's a one instance and it can be explained in other ways.
It could be a giant hot dog.
For all we know, it could be. You're right. So, the thing they talk about with those, though, is that according to some people, you can't actually take a lit torch, into the deepest parts of a pyramid because there's not enough oxygen for the fire to keep going. So the big problem is, how did they light the inside of that if a torch won't keep burning?
True. That's a good point.
And they've said they've done some experiments where people tried to use like mirrors to light the way, but the light diffuses too quickly for them to actually get it into any kind of depth of significance. So that's kind of the idea behind needing a light bulb. And I guess I understand that, but I just don't think.
This is the only place we found this specific illustration or relief of it. And you would think that if somebody did this kind of stuff, that idea would have been documented more than one drawing.
I agree. Yeah. And I think you would have found more especially inside of a pyramid, right? If you're excavating a pyramid, there would be these things in the innermost chambers.
That would make sense.
You would assume, right?
You would think, and there'd be wires and stuff like that.
You would leave it there.
And plus, I mean, there are ways to ventilate your pyramid, even back in those days. I mean, there were ventilator shafts that probably over the years got filled in and plugged.
Probably.
But you can build a ventilator shaft, build a fire underneath it, and it'll send a draft up that. It'll suck out. It'll basically create a nice draft and bring in nice fresh air for you, so your torches will stay lit.
Yeah,
So
I think.
so it's entirely possible. They probably had something like that going on. I would guess.
Yeah.
And probably when they were all done, they had it all filled in and all, the barrels all put to rest and everything like that. They might have just gone ahead and plugged up the vent hole just for security.
Yeah.
That would make total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, there are definitely ways to explain away. Or they just, ancient aliens and flashlights.
Yeah.
They had flashlights.
Yep, ancient LEDs.
Yeah.
Flashlights. So another theory is that they use these batteries for electroplating.
Oh, yeah, I read about this. And
Yeah.
this was a kind of a weird one to figure out. I had to do a bunch of research on exactly how electroplating works.
Yeah?
That's kind of a tough one.
What'd you find out?
Well, the way I understand electroplating is that if you've got, let's say, gold and silver in a substrate, let's just use vinegar because that's an easy one for us all. It works relatively well.
Sure.
If I understand how it's working, is that it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, if either of you know better, is that it's kind of at the molecular level, it breaks some of the gold on the exterior down that's in the solution, and it's attracted to the piece of silver, and then it bonds to that, and that process continues so that you're shuttling at a very, very thin level, little bits at a time. So it's not a fast process, especially in something as small as that is, or if you were using grape juice or whatever it is, because the pH isn't that high, and it's just what it is. It doesn't do a good job. But electroplating is kind of it's just such a scientific process. We figured it out with the 1800s. I think we finally got a good bead on how to electroplate things.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when we developed that kind of technology.
I know it was in the 1800s.
I mean, that certainly, to me, is a more believable theory than powering electrical devices like light bulbs, but...
Yeah, so I also did a lot of research on electroplating because it's kind of like a weird thing to get your head around. And what I came up with in my research was that while, yes, something like this could be potentially used for electroplating, there's no actual evidence of anything from this time being electroplated. Everything from this time has very visible signs of more conventional ways of, plating things.
Hammering them together. I think that's what they usually do. Is they'd hammer it into a thin sheet, and then hammer the two together and bond them
Gilt
through
plating.
force.
They call it gilt plating, or doing mercury gilding, which is basically just like putting them both in mercury and melting them together without any kind of electric current or anything like that.
Right.
Sounds a lot more basic and simple and easy.
Yeah, they totally are, and those are the only ways we've ever found anything from this time period.
But I did find it funny. One of the articles, and I don't remember exactly where I found it, was saying that if this thing was used to electroplate gold onto other objects, so it's a cheaper way of making all of your gold effigies and everything like that, or your gold trinkets that the pharaoh or whoever has, that there could be all of this supposed pure gold in museums. It's actually electroplated stuff. It's not actually gold. It's silver or copper or whatever that then has the gold on top of it. This
that would be
thin
funny.
Micron sheet. And
Yeah.
as old as those things are, I don't buy it.
Yeah, no, it would have worn off by now, at least in places. But also, it'd be quite obvious if something was like, say, silver plated with gold, because it wouldn't weigh nearly enough.
Yeah.
Because gold's a lot denser.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm
I
not
think
too stressed about that.
I don't really accept it.
Yeah, I don't buy that one.
I'm gonna skip the next theory because it's my favorite one and go on to like the more mundane, sciencey, boring McBore.
Let's have boring
theories. So there's two boring McBores. One is that these jars were containers to hold papyrus scrolls.
Okay.
Actually, I think that's the most believable one.
It is. I mean, it's pretty believable.
Yeah.
In March of 2012, this Iraq archaeologist named Professor Elizabeth Stone She's a professor at the Stony Brook University. Went on the first archaeological expedition in Iraq for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And she was doing an interview on NPR, during which they were taking phone callers, and somebody called in and was like, well, what about the Baghdad batteries? Tell us about those. And her response was to say that she didn't know anybody who believed, a single archaeologist who believed that they were actually batteries.
Okay. So I think that we've missed a bit of information that everybody's going to want to know, which is we're saying that they put grape juice or whatever it is. Now, when they found them, they said they had traces of some kind of acidic compound like grape juice in them.
Right. So the theory is that it was the papyrus that disintegrated and coated the walls.
Okay.
And that it could have been the same kind of residue, as the 30s, the 40s.
Okay.
So so obviously whoever excavated this jar was a little careless, because they just popped it, and all this papyrus stuff sort of flaked away, and
they went, oh, look, it's dusty sand.
Yeah, they just turned the jar upside down and shook it out and then put it back together.
Yeah.
You would expect that stuff to be in there, but somebody was a little sloppy.
Mm-hmm. So that's that's the theory. There's another theory that it's a hoax.
Uh-huh.
That is just totally flat out a hoax. And
he just made it up.
Well, yeah. So there's the red flag of the inconsistent stories of how he found it, right?
True.
And then there's the problem of age, where they say that it was from 250 BCE and after Common Era. But apparently, if you look at the kind of artistic qualities of it, it's more in line with what happened in 250 CE to 650 CE, which
is
the
style of jar that they made at that time.
Mm-hmm. So it's a 900-year difference.
Yeah, that's a bit of an issue.
So those are two really big issues.
How did they date it though? Did they date it actually using scientific instrumentation, or just by looking at the style of the jar and saying, well, the people that built this kind of jar lived this particular time?
Yeah, I think initially he just said, oh, it's probably from this time.
So no, I remember reading about this, and the way that I understand it is, as Devin said, is that the 250 CE to 800 or whatever 600 CE.
Yeah.
That was all based on the style of the construction of it and the shape and however they quote unquote would have decorated on the outside, because it's got grooved lines on the outside of them, almost as if somebody had taken a wire brush. It's not smooth. Now, granted, it when they found it, it was outside. It was really kind of eroded, so nobody knows exactly what it was adorned with.
Yeah.
But if I remember correctly, Koenig, William is his name, right? Okay. Wilhelm. If I remember right, he was dating it to the time frame he had, and I'm pretty sure that he did some kind of analysis that was what was available at the time. They didn't have good radio dating like we have now. No, radio dating is the wrong word. What is it?
Carbon dating.
Carbon dating.
Kind of thing, yeah.
But I think it was based on something to do with the metal, is how he was dating it, which could be two different things. If you think about it logically, somebody could have taken a chunk of metal that had been worked years and years prior and been sitting around and just repurposed it into this jar. So they could be from separate time frames, or the dating could just be completely off.
Yeah.
Very true.
I mean, that's from. I don't think that it's never been released to be carbon dated.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
It's a problem.
Is this thing still around, by the way?
Yeah, it is.
It's supposedly
in the museum.
Is anybody? Oh, is it in the museum?
Apparently.
Okay.
So
I mean, it's Baghdad,
sure it didn't
Iraq, so
it didn't get looted back in 2003.
I'm not sure.
Therein lies the rub.
Who knows? So let's go to my absolute favorite theory about this.
Okay.
Because I think that it's probably was a battery of some kind. It had a little bit of electric charge to it.
Very minuscule, but some tingle.
There's this guy, and he's a metallurgy expert of ancient Near East for the British Museum. His name is Dr. Craddock. And he has this theory, which is that a cluster of these batteries connected behind some kind of metal statue or idol could have been connected to the idol as a sort of temple trick.
So you go touch the.
So you
and you get a little
go.
zap.
So you go and it's like a proof of religion sort of situation.
Proof of faith.
Not a proof of faith, a proof of religion, right? So an unbeliever comes to a synagogue or a church or whatever and says, okay, prove to me that your God exists. And the preacher says, okay, if you answer this question correctly, when you touch the statue, it will shock you. And if you answer wrongly, it will not shock you. And they are like standing right next to it, right? Things like this are not common at this time, right? Mm-hmm. So they're not going to be suspicious of somebody standing next to this statue. So they say, okay, and they answer